A one and a two and a chick-a-boom a chick.
Here at Remodelers on the Rise, we've worked with hundreds of remodeling companies. And one of the patterns we see again and again is this. When a company fully implements JobTread, their business gets clearer. They know their numbers. They know where the jobs stand. They know what's making money and what's not. We've watched members go from guessing about profitability to having real-time visibility into their projects. That changes how you price, how you plan, and how you lead. JobTread brings estimating, scheduling, job costing, and invoicing into one connected system, and it works great. If you want more clarity and better control of your business, check out JobTread at JobTread, T-R-E-A-D, jobtread.com. Welcome to the Remodelers on the Rise show. Sometimes I'm chatting with a guest where I don't really know them other than, a little prep meeting here or there, but I am at ease today because I'm chatting with my friend and client and the owner of MJ Kitchen and Bath in beautiful Plymouth, Michigan, Matt Jenkins. I almost try to figure out what your middle name. What is, if I were to go full name, Matt what?
Matthew Michael Jenkins.
MMJ, owner of MJ, MMJ, owner of MJ. There's something there. And I'm kind of at ease because we spent a good amount of time together in peer group and one-on-one coaching. We spent some time together on the golf course. We were just kind of talking about, spring is coming. We might be able to get out there on a Friday morning because, Matt, the idea of running a business is not so that we can work 60 hours a week, right? We
That's
ought
correct.
to try and carve out some time. And then last year we were like, this whole Friday early morning thing is kind of nice. Do you think you're going to, even though you got this show, you got a new baby since then, you got a showroom going, do you think you're going to be able to carve out the time, or are you going to be too busy?
No, we'll make the time. It'll be good to get out there. I love playing with you. I am yet to beat Kyle, but I'm gunning for him. I know he wasn't going to bring that up, but I will own up to it.
I was absolutely not, because Kyle going to
beat me a couple times.
I'm going to operate a professional podcast today. We were also talking before the record button that you have a new microphone and you were showing your kiddos that, and they're like, "What are you doing, Dad?" And you're like, "Well, I'm recording a podcast today." That won you some dad points, and then you were listening to the earlier podcast that we did, and what came on during that podcast?
Kyle talked about dog poop for a very long time in the last podcast. I thought it was weird. My kids greatly enjoyed it, and that was the highlight of the previous podcast for them.
And I thought to myself, how do I end up talking about dog poop on a professional podcast? So I am going extra professional. We will not go down rabbit trails like that. We will stay focused on pure, full octane value for the people that are listening to this wonderful podcast today. Matt, if you wanted to give a little backstory of kind of who you are and your business, and then after that, I will tell people the direction we're going and the topic today.
Great. I started working with my dad about 10 years ago, and we've been chipping away growing the business. And so we have about a 15-person team. As of yesterday, we got a 15-person team. And so, we do mostly kitchen and bath remodeling. We're based in Plymouth, Michigan, have a showroom. We're building out a new one, which we're really excited about. And so, we got some good things in the future here that we're excited for. And I've been working with Kyle now for a little while, and that has been quite helpful and enjoyable as well.
Amazing. Before we get into the topic, actually, let me interject one other thing. Showroom. If you were to say, as we've been developing a brand new kind of, all right, we got a little bit of a blank slate here as we build out this showroom. A lot of people listening either have one or kind of considering one. What are some of the kind of the fresh thoughts that you have or decisions that you've made that you're kind of excited about for this new iteration of the showroom?
Yeah, I think as we've been growing and maturing, we've been getting more and more comfortable with higher end product. And so I think we're trying to show some of that. Our custom line will do 1-inch thick doors and drawer fronts, and it just makes the entire cabinet feel heavier and beefier. Little details like that, some of the finishes that we're doing. And so I think in our current showroom, we did a nice job, and it's a lot of nice displays. I think there's a couple of like wow centerpieces that we're trying to put in the new showroom that I think customers will really like. And then I think our approach on that is we're just trying to show and educate them on what's possible. So I personally don't enjoy being very salesy and trying to shove upgrades down people's throats, but I do want to kind of hopefully have some options that they'll be able to see, and they might appreciate them enough that they want to put them in. So we're trying to do a lot of fun stuff like that. Shout out to Austin Cornell in the peer group. I asked the peer group if there were any ideas or if they had any suggestions for our showroom, and Austin thought that a golf simulator would be a great idea. And so we're going to have a Murphy door that's going to have a hidden room behind it. There's going to be a golf simulator in there, which will be great for both personal and professional use. So
it's a write-off, folks.
It's a write-off, and it's going to help me beat Kyle. So yeah, I'm excited for some of those things.
Okay, excellent. So what we're going to talk about today is fall of last year, and I don't know if it was even the start of this year. You kind of threw your name in the hopper for the Fred Case Award, and then you became a finalist, and then you actually went to Case headquarters and got to have dinner with them and spend some time with them, and you learned a lot through that. And as I was listening to you unpack some of what you learned and the experience, I thought this would be wonderful to kind of capture in podcast form so others can kind of learn and hopefully grow from it as well. You yesterday said, let me actually reach out to Bruce Case and just make sure that he's all good with me sharing what I've learned. And he said, what?
He said, share freely. And Bruce and Bill over there have been just very, very transparent and helpful. And I think they really just want the industry to get better. So they were very excited about this.
Yeah, that's one thing that I definitely gathered was this idea of, you know what, we have our way of doing it. We've learned it this way. And we're going to approach business from a standpoint of we're going to give, we're going to share, we're going to give our secrets, quote unquote, away. And we're going to try to kind of raise all the boats instead of otherwise. That doesn't mean that they don't want to grow a great business. That doesn't mean they don't want to grow a big business, but they have no interest in tearing down everybody else's business to build theirs. They want to actually support the industry, which is great. So you threw your name in the hopper for the application. I'd be curious to kind of hear the process and the approach for that. And then you highlighted on kind of 2 initiatives to try to stand out amongst the applicants. Tell us about that process and tell us about the 2 initiatives.
Yeah. So Matt Quinn is our controller, and he works alongside. And this is the award is something I think Matt found or we heard about maybe on their podcast. And so it asks for some basic information just in terms of years in business, how many people are on payroll. They're also looking, like Kyle, you mentioned a couple of your initiatives that you worked on. So they're more or less 2 things that we submitted. One of them for us had to do with unreasonable hospitality and trying to serve our team members as well as our clients really, really well. And the other one had to do with our sales process and how we're trying to make that a little bit quicker and a little bit more high tech, high speed, while still maintaining a high touch experience. And so I had a couple team members here who both worked on kind of submitting the application, and and then we did some back and forth with Case after we submitted it, so they could fully understand exactly what we did and how we went about doing that.
Cool. So the one of the related to the speed with the sales process, Matt and I actually recorded. Where is my notes on that? I think I have my thing closed here. I'll pull it up as we go. But we actually recorded a full podcast related to what is the advantage and what is the process for kind of speeding up and effectively using technology in the sales process. There it is, streamlining sales for remodelers. It's from March 2025, streamlining sales for remodelers. So if you're listening to this podcast, just go to Remodelers on the Rise. Streamlining sales for remodelers kind of unpacks that. So we'll let that stand on its own. But tell me a little bit about the unreasonable hospitality angle. What was kind of special? What was kind of interesting about that? And how did that come about?
Yeah, so maybe just a quick background on unreasonable hospitality. There's a book that outlines this, and there was a restaurant in New York that eventually went on to be named the best restaurant in the world. And the focus of the book is that once you get to being kind of top of the market, everybody's going to be good specifically in the restaurant world, everybody's going to be good at making food. And so what is going to make you different and unique? And so there's a company, 11 Madison Park, in New York, that decided to make their differentiator. They wanted that to be service. And so they went about serving people unreasonably well. And that looked like a lot of different ways to a lot of different people. And it was a very fun read, and it really resonated with us. If you haven't read it, I highly, highly recommend it. And so that caused some inspiration in our company, and we wanted to try to share that with folks. And so there's a local company right down the street from us, Mano, and they do men's clothing. And so I had been in there once before, almost out of desperation. I was trying to get a suit made up really quickly, and just the entire feel of the establishment. It's a father-son combination, and they have tailors that have been with them for a very long time. And just the music and the presence and the smell and the experience, and they sit you down and they ask you if you want bourbon or espresso, and just like, it's just very, very fun. And so I got talking with the owner, and we kind of bonded over the book of Unreasonable Hospitality.
Was it one of those moments where he's like, dude, I read that too, and oh, you read that?
Did we just become best friends?
Yes.
It was one of those moments. So we ended up hitting it off, and then we wanted to do some training with our guys. And so that experience that I had, I really wanted to share that with folks in our team, on our team. And so we took the guys over there, and we took the gals over there, and we kind of did like a podcast forum with the owner, and we just kind of asked them about how they approach service and unreasonable hospitality. And so that was an awesome learning experience for us. And then we were, we wanted to gift all of our guys like basically a suit coat, and in a very unreasonable on hospitality fashion, Anthony decided to throw in some pants for him too, and they basically got a full outfit out of it. And that was something that we paid for, but I really viewed that as like tuition, and it was a great opportunity for those guys to experience 5-star level service. So now hopefully they can give 5-star level service to our customers. And so that was something that we did. We thought it was cool. We put it in the application, and I think Case enjoyed it as well. So that's a little backstory on that.
Excellent. And what would be, give me one or two little examples of how you feel like you've solidly integrated unreasonable hospitality into kind of your remodeling experience for your clients?
Yeah. Two things come to mind. The first one is like going back to the restaurant analogy. If the restaurant's food stinks, but the service is phenomenal, it doesn't really matter if they wow you with some crazy experience, or if they do an excellent job, or they have all these walking formats so the traffic flows really well, and they do these things that are above and beyond, but they serve their food and it's raw and it gets you sick. Like, it doesn't matter. And so I think for us, there's been a recognition and a doubling down on our service, and our product needs to be excellent first and foremost. And so I think that's something that is very much so front of mind for me. And in terms of like the fun stuff, that's been kind of like the sprinkle on top, and that's been really cool to see people in the company really start to rally behind that. And so there's been little towel warmers that we're taking out to people's homes when they get done with a bathroom, and that's really neat. And some of our customers just recently were serving the guys some coffee in the morning, and we're doing just a little bathroom over there, and the guys brought over a handwritten card at the end of the job. They brought over a little basket that had Keurig pods in it. And so this thing probably cost $20, but it was very personalized, and the customers giving our guys a hug on the way out the door, and just like they're already back in the queue for another bathroom. But like, it's been really fun to see the guys run with that, and it's not necessarily me implementing it, but seeing these little success stories pop up. It's just been, it's been very neat, very fun, and it's cool that we're making a difference and making some people happy.
Because more than just here's what we do each time. That's not really the vibe of it. It's more, it's a philosophy of like, yes, we are going to offer excellent finished product. That's a given. Now, what do we do that's kind of unreasonable? It depends on the situation. But like the example you just gave is like the idea that the carpenters said, you know what, let's hand write this note. Amazing. And here's a little thing. That's the Keurig that they like. Those are the pods that they like. Let's make that happen. That is not crazy like, oh, you just blew my socks off. But it is, because it still is, paying attention. So that philosophy to get the team to understand that. You heard kind of loud and clear, Matt recommended this book, Unreasonable Hospitality. He mentioned it's kind of an easier read. It's very story form. It's very practical. As you read it, you'll be like, oh, I could absolutely talk to my team about that. Oh, we could start implementing that. I highly recommend it as well. It's one of my favorite books. I say that. Now, it's not like Kyle has read 1,000 books in the last 10 years. So I feel a little bad of saying like it's one of my favorite books, because that's not pulling from 1,000, but it's pulling from a decent number. And I thought it was an excellent book. Now, when Matt says it, he is an avid reader. It carries some weight. Now, Matt, I said I was going to take this serious, which we have so far. We're already delivering a little value. We're about to get into the bulk of it. Of you spent a full day at Case. You talked advertising and marketing, and the architect design, and this estimating the sales process, production. But I'm a little worried because you mentioned that your kids thought this was amazing that you're recording a podcast. They're gonna be like, Dad, we want to listen to the recording, and I feel like they're going to be bored so far. Like we're just talking business. How could we?
Dog poop? What do you want to talk about?
No, we don't need to go potty talk. But what would get their attention? What would they love to hear you talk about?
We got so you guys, Remodelers on the Rise is highly sought after, very demanded. They have quite the production schedule at this point. I know that we right now are up against March Madness. My kids are very excited about March Madness. When people hear this, March Madness will probably be done. True. But probably throwing a little bit of talk in there about Michigan, and we're on the downswing, Michigan State and Izzo, and are they clicking at the right time? I mean, we could talk hoops. I don't know if that's a good idea.
We could go there. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go on record here on the recording on March 18th, 2026 at 12:20 p.m. You're going to call your shot. If you want to call Final Four, if you want to call Final, if you want to call Champion, put it out there, and that will be very impressive to your kids.
I'll keep it simple. I'm going to go Arizona is likely taking home the championship, and I hope that lands for me. That'd be awesome. So I'm going to go Arizona. What you got?
And what's your prediction of the mighty Wolverines are going to get their crap together, and they're going to take care of business?
No. LJ Kaysen being out, that's a buzzkill. We need another point guard. I don't have them going past the Elite Eight. Wow. Yeah, and I like Michigan. I like Michigan a lot.
What about that giant 7-footer and what's the point guard's name?
Mara?
Yeah, Mara. He's a beast.
He's a big boy.
Got the Big Ten Player of the Year.
Yep.
And then who's the other point guard? Starts with a C.
Elliot Cadeau. We got Yaxel.
He's going to stay out of foul trouble. He stays in the game. We don't need a backup. You just watch. Dusty May's going to pixie dust some magic, sprinkle some magic on this team, and they're going to bring home their first title since the 80s.
You're paying tuition up at Michigan State, right? No cheering for them too?
Nah, I'm not really interested. Good for you. I feel like Tom Izzo is kind of losing a little bit of the luster. I feel like he's very angry. He's becoming an old, cranky man. He was already cranky, but now everything's bothering him. And his point guard keeps kicking people in the nether regions and needs to stop it.
That's true.
There we go. Now your kids have heard the word.
You just made my kids happy.
There we go. We talked about nether regions. Dad, what is he talking about? Kids, your dad will explain it. Okay, there we go. Now I feel good. I care about the people listening to this and the value to the remodeler, but we've allowed the Jenkins kids to smile. Kids, say it again. Nether regions. All right. So you had a little dinner with the leadership team, and then you had a full day of training. What was kind of your takeaways from the dinner that you had with a little bit broader leadership team down at Case?
Yeah, super fun. I am going to spitball, and I probably should know this off the top of my head, but I want to say that there were probably about 6 folks or so from their leadership team that was at the dinner, and it was just so like relaxed and fun, and I think that was our takeaway when we got back to the hotel and we were just talking about like they just really liked working with each other, and they really liked like that. It didn't feel like a work dinner. It felt like it was friends going out to dinner and welcoming some strangers into their town, and so we were able to talk some shop, and it was cool to be around them. But like, just that was my biggest impression, was like, wow, wouldn't it be awesome to have a leadership team that, and a lot of them have been there for 15, 20, 30 years. Some of those guys have been working together for 30 years. And so for me, that was kind of, just inspiring. I'm 30, how old am I? 34. And I got a young team generally here. And so it was like, oh man, that's really cool. And I hope to build something toward that, where I continue to invest in the relationships, and it's not just, I have to go work with these people, but man, I really want to go spend time with these folks was definitely the takeaway from that dinner.
And that inspiring and seeing a vision of like, oh, this is how this could look. It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to look that way, but
Right.
to say, you know what, that idea of continuing to put culture at the forefront, continuing to make sure that we're having fun at work, that we're being challenged at work, that we're challenging each other as well, and frankly, that we enjoy being around each other. Frankly, business is hard, and that can make business a little more enjoyable.
Yep. I agree with you. Yeah, and it might help to set the stage too. Case is a very large company. They do. I'm going to spitball between 50 to 60 million a year. I think that a couple of years, COVID, everybody kind of blew up, and I think they did, and they were trying to right size a little bit after that. But they're a really big organization, and they have multiple locations, and so all the folks sitting around that table were just like highly qualified, highly educated, very smart, and just like top notch people.
Excellent.
So it's good.
And you and three of your team members were able to go?
Yep. So Mike, Mike is my dad. He's the founder. He went, and then Matt Quinn, our controller, went, and then Joe is on the production side of things. And so they're very gracious, and again, let us bring out multiple team members. So it was cool to have people there from different parts of our company.
So as you kind of went around to with the Case team, let's start with kind of the advertising and marketing side of things. What stood out to you there that you've kind of brought back, or that gave you kind of some fresh perspective?
Yeah, that we're really behind Case was the major takeaway. Just they have two people dedicated just to straight up advertising. So one person is working on, I would call it more organic. So Facebook post, putting gifts together for clients, helping with flyers, helping the guys in the office if they need an email put together, or they need to reach out to their past customers. So somebody was very much like working on kind of like the smaller is probably not the right word for it, but more in-house advertising, I guess I would say. And then they had someone who was just straight up going after like Washington Post and putting a lot of press out to the public. And so, I mean, that blows my mind because we do a little bit of marketing here and there, but nothing like the outreach was incredible. The statistics, the AI that they're using, and I'm not going to do it justice, unfortunately, trying to explain it all here, but I was just very blown away by the intentionality that they're putting into getting out into the public's eyes. And that's probably how you get bigger too, would be my guess.
Yes, that idea of sometimes we wear it as a badge of honor of, hey, I hardly spend anything on advertising and marketing. And I'm like, you seem happy about that. Well, I am happy about that. Okay, fair. Now, if you're looking to grow your business, and let's say you've been in business for 10 plus years, there's going to be a certain amount, if you're doing a good job, there's going to be a certain amount of just repeat and referral business. There's going to be a certain, like, I can depend on $750,000 or $1 million of revenue coming in just from my normal repeat referral network. If you're really looking to grow your business, that's when you really need to take advertising and marketing seriously. And or when you're at the level that they're at, or even if you were at the $8 million mark or the $10 million mark or the $12 million mark, it is rare that you don't have a pretty robust marketing and advertising approach. I also thought it was interesting how you mentioned like one person, like bigger picture. We got PR stuff, we got story writing, we got advertising, we got all of that going. And then the way that you described the other person, I kind of like to think of it as like the marketing little things coordinator, all those little things, those handwritten cards, those emails and letters that you can send out, the previous client outreach, gifts to clients, all those little things that enhance the experience. And frankly, our previous client list is our most valuable marketing asset. How do we continue to nurture that? It sounds like they've dedicated some time and money towards that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, Maddie was the Maddie Milholland was doing all of that, and she works with all the salespeople. So they have a huge sales team, and she was basically on demand for them in terms of if they needed help putting together flyers, if they wanted to send something to past customers, if they wanted to any level of, I'm guessing, prospecting in a new neighborhood, like she would help with all of that. So
Got it.
Pretty cool that they had a role figured out for that, and again, a well-oiled machine. So she was keeping very busy. Their presentation they cover a lot of stuff. It was very neat.
Good. We're talking to Matt Jenkins, a Fred Case Award finalist, about his day and his trip to the DC area, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did you see any sights when you were down there?
No, we flew in, had dinner, had a full day, and got out of there.
Straight business. Sales process. So that's marketing and advertising. Moving over into the sales process, some takeaways that you saw from that.
Yeah, this was pretty neat. I do a lot of the sales for our company, and so what I really enjoyed was talking specifically to different people at dinner, and even in the midst of different folks coming in and kind of sharing with us. I was very blown away by the fact that everybody was speaking the same language. And so something that Kyle says on the podcast is this is how we work.
Mm-hmm.
And those are very important words to be able to direct people as they come in, to show them that there is a way that we do business. Everybody over there was singing the exact same system and the exact same process. And so they have podcasts on this, and I would recommend that you go and check those out. And hopefully Kyle or Cassie can kind of link to some of those potentially. But
Yeah, or if you're listening to this, Design Build Central is Case's. I think Qualified Remodeler might be tied in there, but Design Build Central is their podcast to look up.
Yeah, and so just the thing I was most impressed with was the system. This is how we do it. Every customer goes through the same exact system, and they do projects. They have a Fred division, which we can get into, which is more like a handyman division. But once they get above, I believe it was $30,000, that goes into kind of like the normal case process. So they'll have a job from, I'm guessing, $30,000 all the way up to probably north of $1 million. Their average job size was 250,000. And so I just thought it was cool that no matter where you are in that spectrum, this is how we work and this is how we do it, was kind of built out, and they've been doing it the same way, it sounds like, for a really long time. And it's like there wasn't a lot of finessing it. There wasn't a lot of, oh, we try this and we try this. Like, it's like, I think they've been doing it this way for quite a while. They've had success with it, and I was pretty blown away by that. Like, we've already talked about sports. In sports, there's all sorts of new offenses, and there used to be the triple option, and now there's RPO, and we're spreading it out, and speed and space, and there's different ways to go about attacking offense. For them, they're kind of like, we're big, fast, strong, and we're just going to keep running it down your throat. And I thought that was, there's something to that commitment to their sales process.
What were a few facets of their process that stood out, like as far as what that looks like?
Yeah, so they have like a lead calls in, and they just immediately set up an appointment for the salesperson to go out there, and then it's on the salesperson to make contact with that customer beforehand, and then they can kind of do their own screening. From there, they go out to the house, they talk through the project with the customer, and then from there they have something called a case study. And at that point, again, please double check the podcast for me. I don't want to get my percentages wrong, but I want to say that it's like an estimated 1% of the project total will allow them to kind of put together a first pass proposal. And then from there, they, if you like the first pass proposal, you like the price, you like what they've come up with, then they kind of dig into the next layer of it, and you keep working your way toward basically completion from there. But very clearly laid out, very digestible, very clear for a homeowner to understand what the deliverables are. They have forms and sheets for everything, so everything's really well documented, and it's been flushed out.
So a couple things I heard there of, like, we have a process, but there's a little wiggle room in there for each salesperson to kind of do their own thing. But I'm guessing if I had 10 salespeople there, that all 10 of them would be able to ace pretty much the exact same description of this is how we work. Even that idea of they have a case study. If you're hearing that, of going, ooh, that's kind of clever. That's kind of probably a little bit of their ballpark range, a little bit of their free estimate, if you will, but they've kind of named it something that is unique. Consider that in your remodeling business. If you're listening to this, well, could you name that would make sense of what it is, but also kind of be a little bit of intellectual property, a little bit of uniqueness to it. And what I'm also hearing there is, there's definitely a point where, okay, if it's even, you said check the tape, but like if it's 1% of the budget, that doesn't mean that they're making a ton of money on the design development, but they do have that line in the sand that says, there's a moment of truth. We've got a budget range in front of you. Here are the next steps in the process. And they're writing that check or clicking on that button to pay that amount, which then, we all know, listening to this, that improves our closing percentage. But it's very clear, step by step. Anybody listening to this, you cannot tire from this is how we work. And the thing you emphasize, I think this would be super clear. Like, if I'm a homeowner, I get it. It is clear. It's not sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that. It ranges from 1% to 4%. Well, it depends on this. That ambiguity and that is a hindrance Wow. Sorry, Jenkins kids listening to this. Ask your dad for those definitions. Mr. Hunt is you call him. You told him Mr. Kyle. Mr. Kyle is bringing some big words, ambiguous, and whatever that other one I said. But it's very clear. It's very clear. So I can't emphasize that enough. I think that should be a takeaway for people listening to this. Excellent. Moving on around the horn. Tell me about the production side.
Production side, they heavily rely on their project managers. They get paid a percentage of gross profit.
Stop.
Um,
Tell me
yep.
more about that. Did that jolt you a little bit of going, holy crap, the PM is getting paid based on gross profit?
Yeah, it's pretty neat and puts a lot of ownership and emphasis on those project managers being awesome. So during COVID, I know they said their project managers were making a lot of money, but they were also working their tails off. And I think it was Bruce who maybe said like the PM role is one of the most important roles in their company,
Mm.
and it really is. Yeah, they have an awesome sales process, and that is definitely um, again very fleshed out. But the PM, it sounds like one phrase that they used regularly was creative people do creative things, and I think that when you get to their size, there's certainly a level of like you need to allow people to use their strengths and their abilities, and so I get the sense that the PMs all communicate maybe a little bit different. And I get the sense that their jobs, I asked the question, hey, if I did a job with one crew, but then I did a job with a different crew, would it still feel like a case job? Would it still feel the same? And they kind of chuckled and they're like, no, they're going to have very different feels.
Mm.
Um, but if we do a good job, customers are going to want that same PM back, and that will have the same feel to it. And so there was certainly like a very clear high level of trust that was given to those PMs to run their jobs. They are responsible for hiring and firing their own crew members. They are responsible for if you want to have a 2-person crew, that's great. If you want to have an 8-person crew, that's great. So they give them a ton of flexibility and freedom to run basically their own mini business within the greater business.
Wow. So the PM, as far as their compensation, it's majority more commission, like revenue share base.
What I have jotted down at least is that it's basically all commission. They have a draw to kind of offset slower months, but it's all incentive based basically.
It's interesting. I think anybody listening to this idea of, if you can, right now, most people listening to this, whether it's their office or their field team, 90+% of the compensation to your team member is some type of base or salary, and maybe up to 10% being commission. This isn't the first time I've heard it of, if you really find the right people, and you kind of mentioned like almost a business within a business, the idea of flipping that around where the majority is kind of commission-based revenue, gross profit share, can be an amazing way to incentivize and also to really get some good profitability going. I want you to mention a couple other production. I kind of I wanted to go design team after sales process because that would have been the logical move, but hit me with anything else production wise. And then we're going to just scooch back to that design team learnings as well.
No, honestly, I think that was my biggest takeaway. I mean, I could keep talking about it. I think that was definitely the biggest takeaway was the structure, the trust, and the way that they empower their guys. Everything else, there was a lot of similarities between how we do a dust protection. There wasn't anything that blew my mind. The way in which they go about installing stuff, it was really like the structure was the big takeaway there.
You listen to Entre Leadership, Dave Ramsey's little thing from time to time,
don't
you?
Yep.
Yeah, love him or hate him, whatever. He's got a lot of good stuff. I was listening to something the other day, and they said to delegate something, you need 2 things. To truly delegate something, 1, you need competence, and 2, you need integrity. And that jumped out at me. My wife and I were in the car, and I said, honey, send me an email with those 2 things, please. I want to remember that. To delegate something, you need competence and integrity. And kind of what you just described is like, yeah, we need a process. Yes, we need to understand how the production side works. But if I've got somebody with competence and integrity, and I incentivize them around profitability, that combination can really work and reduce a lot of friction.
Yeah, and they do. It's a highly sought after position. So they did training for their PMs, and it was I believe it was unpaid, but they did training at 7 a.m. And they started with, I think there were 12 guys that wanted to be part of this, and it dwindled itself down. And there were a lot of fun tests and tricks throughout the process to see who would be able to basically stand out from the others. And so, at least for me, that was something too that was pretty neat. Where like put put something out there that the guys are going to want and that they're going to desire, and make this something that not just, oh, I have all this responsibility, but oh, I get to have all of this responsibility, but man, I'm also really rewarded for the time and energy that I put into it. Was cool. So yeah, they do a good job, I think, of finding the people they can trust, and they're certainly competent.
Excellent. So I want to circle back to design team and kind of the architect takeaway. I want to touch on that Fred division because that sounds kind of interesting. Also, a little shout out to Bruce Case and the team over there for being so generous. One, with the whole idea of the award is really cool and great for our industry. And then the fact that they take the finalists and offer this opportunity for you to learn is very, very cool. So there's something for all of us to learn from that. Generosity is good. Generosity is something we should emulate. Generosity is something that we should not tire from. Tell me about the design team.
Design team is large. They were half architects and then half more so, like, I believe interior designers would be their title. They did a great job putting plans together. That was a big takeaway. All of their quotes, for the most part, I believe, are all plans. Like we use JobTread and we write a lot of words and we have a lot of templates, which speeds that up. But everything that they do is plan based, which blew my mind. So I thought that was cool and something to aspire toward. They think that both customers and guys in the field will have a hard time reading things, and so they've really just tried to make everything plan based. And they said that has been, it sounds like, quite helpful in terms of minimizing mistakes. So demo plans and then framing, electrical, plumbing, everybody's got a set of plans basically that they work off of. And then on the finish side, they had a very nice design studio. I think they try to help customers through that process. They're spending a lot of money and they're big, complicated jobs. I get the sense that they are really trying to simplify. They're not showing them 50 different door samples. They're showing them a couple. And so a lot of the basic stuff that we do here in kitchen and bathroom remodeling, I think they were trying to make their bigger projects feel as simple as you're just doing a kitchen or you're just doing a bathroom. So simplification seemed to be something else that they were really striving for on the design front.
Yeah, and that's good for all of us to consider as we're walking people through the process. Is there a project, a client, a time and a place to bust open the big old Rolodex and book of all the different options for that railing, for this, for that? There probably is. At the same time, I think we err when we're walking people through the design and development process. I think we err towards perhaps showing them too many options and almost in a not kind way of doing it and just overwhelming them. You have years of experience of products and styles and selections that have really resonated on the whole. And there's a lot of people that would love for you to present those three options and for them to pick it. Again, not a universal truth, but it's interesting how you've got a company over there that's of full-scaled size, and there's some simplicity in what they're walking people through. Obviously, the designer can juke and jive that as they read the client.
Yeah, even in their setup of the design studio, they had their doors almost tucked, cabinet doors, and they had racks of them, and they probably had 50 to 100 of them back there. And they had all of that kind of tucked away where a designer would purposely need to walk back there, grab the door that they like, and then bring that out to the customer. They said if a customer wants to go back there and see everything, they certainly can, but they almost discourage it. And so I thought that was a neat emphasis and a neat way to go about almost hiding stuff from people so they don't face and feel that overwhelm.
Jenkins children, if you are still listening to this, first of all, congratulations. That was impressive.
They're definitely toned out.
Or if you have fast forwarded to the 37-minute mark, congratulations. I have another prediction. We will see if it has come true. Your father on Tuesday, March 31st, will throw caution to the wind and get crazy. You thought you were having a regular meal? Oh no, it is a dessert first dinner at the Jenkins house on Tuesday night, March 31st. That is my prediction. We will see if, just like the Michigan Wolverines winning the national title, if that in fact happens. Moving on. How do you feel about that? That was pretty creative, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got one kid that really loves sugar. I feel like he probably heard you. He's in school right now. At least he should be in school. I feel like he heard
There's something. He's in school right now, and something jolted. Something's in the air. He smells it.
He felt it.
Smells that sugar. What's his name? You want to give him a shout out?
Henry.
Oh, Henry. Is he the one that runs around like a wild banshee?
That's James.
Oh, I can't keep track of it. Okay. All right, fair enough.
Either.
All right. This is going great. Love these takeaways. If I'm a remodeler listening to this, I'm happy. If I'm a Jenkins kid, I'm happy. Everything's good, and I'm happy, and you're happy. Fred division. Talk about that, and then I got kind of a final question or two.
Yeah, main takeaways on the Fred division. So I want to say that the Fred division does about $12 million a year. Was the number that they threw out. So that's a large division, and that does not go through their normal design build process. I believe that is basically someone goes to the house, puts everything together in one shot, and they might even be running with the job. Again, all of this is on their podcast. Feel free to double check me, but it was a much faster process than what their typical process is. I believe that is like a lead carpenter model where whoever's at the job is you don't have as many layers, and they just simplify it basically.
Yeah.
But it's still a lot of business to be doing $12 million of that. So that is something that the other thing I really liked about this was that they use this for their larger projects when their projects get done to just kind of do like home maintenance and warranty. And I think if someone needs something small done, there's a way to continue to help people that are already in your circle. So I thought that was a really cool way to stay connected to your current clients. Sometimes we get calls and it just doesn't feel like it makes sense. And so we're very committed to staying in our niche and doing what we do. But it's kind of like, man, I'd love to help these people that need some drywall repair. They just need this thing done. And I at least feel conflict. So I thought that this was a great way to still be able to help and serve those people, but really have some clarity around it, where they're not competing against each other.
That's good. And it's a tough nut to crack, that idea of a handyman division. I think if you've got a nice established remodeling company, it comes up all the time in my coaching work is like, oh man, I think, what do you think of maybe doing kind of a handyman division? And one thing that comes to mind for anybody listening to this, make sure your core business is rock solid, because you better make sure that baby is built up and solid and humming along before you add the complexity and the challenge of a handyman division. And there's some best practices of what you described. That person going out, especially for handyman work, better be somebody that can talk to the customer, that can quote things, that can sign off on things, that can do the work. They've got a pretty wide ability of different work. They collect the payment. A lot of that handyman work just is very much like a plumbing service technician experience of like, you come out, you quote it, you do it, you collect on it. It just really simplifies things. And to your point, it can also be a really great way to serve your existing clients. And I like that warranty and the follow-up side of things. What's
really interesting for them, I agree with everything that you're saying, but one thing that's really interesting for them is that it could be a $20,000 bathroom. Yeah. It's not like a one day like plumbers coming out to change out a hose bib thing. So I don't fully understand the ins and outs, but I did find that very unique, that it wasn't just drywall repair, it wasn't just painting a room. There's still some level, that's a sizable project for some companies, and they still morphed it down into one division. So I think for most remodelers that are in this $1 to $2 to $3 to $10 million range, to me, I have a tendency to agree with you, like keeping it really small and keeping it in one person's umbrella seems to make the most sense to me. But they've been able to figure out a way to scale.
What do they call it? The Fred division?
Fred was Bruce's father. Sounds like he passed away. And when we started talking about Fred, the room just like lit up and there were tears shed. And like, it sounds like Fred was just an outstanding guy. So he's still at the forefront. And I believe that is, and there was a lot of mentioning of like trying to keep his legacy going. And so cool. I think that was a way to honor him, is what I gathered.
Very, very cool. So you ended up as a Fred Case Award finalist, had this great experience. So even if you didn't win, you would say this was amazing. Did you end up winning?
No. I didn't get to meet the winner either. He's from California, I believe. I got to meet Victor, who's from Colorado. And I forget the other gal who was named. But Victor and our company, we were the only two that were able to make it. So that was a bummer. It would have been great to hang out with the other folks. It was really cool that me and Victor got a lot of one-on-one time with the team. Yeah. It was good.
And how are you doing with not being, as somebody who likes to win and is competitive? How are you handling the finalists? It's like the Grammy, like the Grammys or the Oscars. The Oscars were just on the other day, and like they got a camera on all 5 finalists. And the one that doesn't get it, they still got to kind of smile through the golf claps.
Yeah. I'm very competitive. So I'm afraid that not everybody listening to this will know me, and they're going to think I'm a jerk but yeah, I'm competitive. I like winning. So it was a
Well,
bummer, but
luckily you still were a winner.
yeah. And really when we originally submitted for this, their generosity is through the roof. The winner, I believe, receives $10,000. The finalists get $2,500, which really is neat because they're basically paying for your travel at that point to fly you out. Our biggest thing was that we just wanted to go spend time with them and just learn from them and see what their operation looks like. It's cool to have a little article written, but really just the time. And I would super encourage anybody still listening at this point. Just if you're I think the biggest prerequisite is you need to be below 8 million. So they're trying to help smaller companies to see what it looks like to grow. And so if anybody's interested, like, I think it's really cool. And our initiatives were fun, but I think they could be way simpler. And there's lots of different ways that everybody's innovating all the time. And so I know everybody has initiatives. So I would just encourage people to
not be shy about it.
Yeah, go spend time with them, and they would welcome you with open arms, and they'd be very gracious, I'm sure, with you too.
Cool. You had written like their generosity, their desire to give back was just something that you guys were admiring, and that you're kind of going, man, we got to keep seeking after that.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Matt, that was excellent. Did that feel good? Anything else you want to share?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That was good.
That was wonderful. If the Jenkins kids are still listening, here's how we're going to wrap this up. The favorite child of Matt Jenkins is the following. Go ahead and give the answer, Matt.
My wife, Megan, is my absolute favorite, and I love spending time with her, and she's my ride or die. So Megan Jenkins, that was the question, right?
That was impeccably handled. I feel like I said it. I feel like kind of like I was a wingman because I set that up. I was hoping you were going to go that. It's like we were on the same wavelength there. I kind of put you on the spot. I put you in a predicament, and
that's what you were hoping for. That's what you were hoping for when you tried to make me single out which of my kids was my favorite.
Unlike when we played golf last, I teed you up and you just smacked it 300 yards dead straight. Oh, I knew I wasn't going to say anything, but now the season's actually the competitive juices are flowing, even though it's 20 degrees out and it's March 18th. Spring will be here, so let the smack talking season commence.
Cool.
Did I mention I ran my mouth at Gary Houghton? If you're listening to this, I'm coming for you. Mike Claudio, I'm coming for you too. I ran my mouth at the Remodel Your Marriage, Life, and Business about golf, and during one of the breaks, he's in the VIP club. It was the first time I met him in person. He comes up to me and he goes, "So if you get in the car and head east, and I get in the car and head west, we both drive 4 hours." He's in New Jersey. We both drive 4 hours, and there's a golf course in Pennsylvania that we will be playing. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not good. This is not good if he is proactively coming at me like this. And I said, "What's your handicap?" And he holds up one finger. Wow. And I go, "Ruh-roh, we've got trouble, folks."
If he knew that he could drive 4 hours one direction, he'd land at a golf course like that. That tells you he knows his golf.
He had already researched. He's like, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Okay, so I need to actually keep my mouth shut about the golf side of things. His name's Gary Houghton.
Get him, Gary. Get him.
Somebody's got to humble this guy over here. All right, man. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. See ya.
I want to tell you about something we see all the time in our coaching work. A remodeler joins Remodelers on the Rise feeling overwhelmed. Projects feel scattered. Financials feel fuzzy. Systems feel patched together. Then they implement JobTread. And over time, things start to change for the better. Their estimates get tighter. Their schedules get clearer. Their job costing gets more accurate. Their invoicing gets more consistent. We've watched JobTread help our members move from chaos to control. Not overnight, but in a sustainable way that supports growth. It's an all-in-one platform built for remodelers who want to run a real business, not just stay busy. If you're ready for a better system, better decisions, learn more at JobTread.